We're back with more news and an update on Britt Baker's injury, as Dave Meltzer went on record saying that she could have probably worked last night on Dynamite, but it was better off that she didn't. It was more of a precautionary measure because even though her injury is not serious, she was better off not working rather than working last night on Dynamite. Speaking of Dynamite, though, next week on Dynamite, Timothy Thatcher, former NXT champion Timothy Thatcher, will be making his AEW debut as the road to Revolution continues for Bryan Danielson, fighting hired guns of MJF to try and keep Bryan Danielson away from the AEW World Champion, as Timothy Thatcher will be the one to, well, challenge Bryan Danielson next. I mean, much like the arrival of Trent Seven in AEW, it is surprising and from pretty much out of nowhere, the arrival of Timothy Thatcher, because Timothy Thatcher has been pretty much in Japan recently. I think most recently competing on actually the Great Muta Final Bye Bye show, which saw Muta, Sting, and Darby Allin compete in a six-man tag team match against Takushi Akira and Marufuji this past week. The only question is, in my opinion, is this a long-term thing or is this a one-shot deal? Because I will applaud AEW for actually having a video set up to show how dangerous Timothy Thatcher is, because they had a video queued up to show Timothy Thatcher going after it looked like either trainees or during his matches in Pro Wrestling Noah. So you have an idea of not just who Timothy Thatcher is, but how dangerous he is and how much of a threat he could be to the American Dragon. Which I think AEW needs to do a little bit more of when they're bringing in new people, especially when they're bringing in new people, to give people the night, because they can't just assume that wrestling fans know everyone outside of the AEW brand. I know that's more of a WWE philosophy, but you can't expect fans to know everyone, especially people who have never been within the ranks of your company. Because there are people who just watch one brand and not everything wrestling. You know, not everybody is me that knows everyone or may know a lot more people than meets the eye. But also, I just want to once again point out, Britt Baker is not heavily injured or severely injured. She is just nursing the injury and should be back momentarily, should be back very soon, and will not miss a whole chunk of time. Speaking of a little bit of tension, though, or missing time, Duke Hudson has been a part of Chase U for the last couple of months, and it seemed like Chase U was getting a little bit of a momentum, but I mean, Chase U is still one of if not the most popular act in NXT, and a perfect way to get unproven talent a little bit more attention and a little bit more time. Which I believe Miss Hale, who was the feature of the segment last night, or 2 nights ago on NXT, was, well, the feature, but Andre Chase fought JD McDonough, and JD McDonough was victorious in his match with Andre Chase, much to the dismay of Duke Hudson, who in a way cost Andre his match with the Irish Ace. Walking out on Andre Chase was Duke Hudson, and that led to Miss Hale taking note of Duke Hudson, and not just Hale, but Andre Chase also taking notice of Duke Hudson walking out, which now leads to the intrigue of where does Duke Hudson stand within the ranks of Chase University, because it seems like, I don't want to say disloyalty, but it seems like he may not want to be a part of Chase University anymore, and he may see Andre Chase as a bit of a failure to a degree. But also a little bit of an interesting note. As I noted a few months ago, Roman Reigns selected Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn to be a part of this segment and to be a part of this angle, as they were handpicked by Roman Reigns to be included. Not by WWE, they were handpicked by the Tribal Chief. And Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn was never the expectation. But now, I will in a second read you what the report that I found from eWrestling News about this conversation or about this possibility. But before I get to that, I just want to mention that, speaking of the Royal Rumble, before I forget, it will be exactly the way it is with Rampage. As we do Rampage predictions on Friday, we will do Royal Rumble predictions on Saturday, ahead of the Royal Rumble, Saturday, January 28th. So you got Rampage predictions on Friday, and then Royal Rumble predictions on Saturday, as the Royal Rumble predictions will go right along with the news. I just wanted to mention that before we got to the last news story. Or the last bit of news. And that I'm not forgetting. Don't think I'm forgetting when it comes to that stuff. That, it never is. That, and we also have, we have some major news or major changes regarding the world title picture, or the women's division picture. The SmackDown women's division, I should say. Sorry, I'm a little bit disorganized and disheveled. It's a little later than normal, and I didn't expect to be recording this at 6:30 at night. But a new report from Fightful Select suggests that that going into this year's Royal Rumble pay-per-view, there were creative changes made for the SmackDown Women's title program, which we noticed because initially we thought Ronda Rousey would be getting a title rematch against Charlotte Flair, but that doesn't seem to be the case, and it seems like Charlotte will be fighting someone else. But according to the report from Fightful, that Ronda Rousey was penciled in for a match with Raquel Rodriguez, rather, at the Royal Rumble as of early December. And that changed when Charlotte returned, and they put the belt back on Charlotte. And the original plan seemed like Charlotte was set to take on Bianca Belair, and Ronda Rousey would have taken on Rhea Ripley. I'm assuming at WrestleMania. With Bianca Belair being the champion at WrestleMania, and then then Rhea Ripley basically looking at Ronda as the next mountain to climb, and her transferring over to SmackDown. I don't know how that would have affected. The Judgment Day and her presentation in the Judgment Day, but obviously there is different plans. I don't know what the plans are, to be honest with you, with the Royal Rumble. 2 days away. I don't know what the plans are for Charlotte Flair to defend the title at the Royal Rumble. I don't even know if Charlotte Flair is defending the title at the Royal Rumble. But what I do know is, as of early December, plans changed. So, it's something that WWE hadn't planned on changing, but it shows, or hadn't planned on doing rather, but it shows that the Roman Reigns story is not the only thing that has changed, because the match between Roman and Sami, now I can tell the full story. With all the other news out of the way and nothing else causing us to, be distressed, Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn was never the original plan. But it seems like Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn, which I hinted at after the trial of Roman Reigns. After the trial of Sami Zayn on Monday, I hinted at the possibility of. It seemed to me that Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn seemed like a legitimate possibility, and that Sami Zayn could be the one to win the Royal Rumble this Saturday night. And here's a report from Mr. Meltzer on a recent edition of the Wrestling Observer, where the long-term plan of Roman versus Sami at WrestleMania main event was not Roman versus Sami. The WrestleMania main event was not Roman versus Sami. It was Cody or The Rock. But it clicked. To their credit, it clicked, and you see it every single time they're in the ring. And now it might be similar to ironically enough, similar to the story we started the last news video with Bianca Belair being chosen to win the Royal Rumble 2 years ago. WWE may look at Sami Zayn as, let's make a star. It may be like Kofi Kingston. It may be like Bryan Danielson back in 2014. But Sami Zayn has spent the last year winning over the members of the Bloodline. And every single segment people praise with the Bloodline. From last week, with just a simple segment with Sami Zayn running in and taking his time to go after Kevin Owens. Just the subtlety, just the small details. And I even put over how subtle Paul Heyman was and his addition to that segment. And then the masterfulness of the trial of Sami Zayn on Raw last week. It just added everything, and it looks like a Hollywood movie. And as I said during the video that I made after Raw, if there's anything built for Hollywood, if there's anything that would be built for WrestleMania, it would be this story with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline. Because as I mentioned, you might ask, what do you do for Elimination Chamber? What do you do for Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns what do you do for the Elimination Chamber? Well, you have Sami Zayn get the option to make the biggest decision of his life in Montreal, in his hometown of Montreal, to decide to stay with the Bloodline or to cash in his WrestleMania match and challenge Roman Reigns for the undisputed Universal Championship on the grandest stage of them all at WrestleMania, to maximize the reaction, to maximize everything for Sami. You have him announced in Montreal, in his hometown of Montreal, Canada. You have him announced that he will be challenging Roman Reigns at WrestleMania and trading in his spot in the Bloodline for the opportunity of a lifetime to become undisputed Universal Champion and the first person to pin Roman Reigns in 2.5 years. That would be something spectacular, and a spectacular way to end an incredible story. And you may ask, well, what does Kevin Owens do at WrestleMania if Sami Zayn is challenging Roman Reigns for the Universal title? Solo Sikoa. You have Kevin versus Solo Sikoa because there it is there. Well, what about the Usos? Well, you could have Kevin Owens find a partner and go against the Usos, but I think it would be better putting him against Solo Sikoa. That's just me. Unless you want to put Solo Sikoa in a Battle Royal and have him win the Battle Royal to put over Solo Sikoa. But I think the money is on Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns, and I think this is Dave Meltzer in my interpretation. You guys can let me know down in the comment section below what you think. But up to my interpretation, I think this is Dave Meltzer's way of saying that it's a very strong possibility we might see Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. Till next time, though, I know this video ran a little long, but I will see you in the next video.